to do something new today, and I'm pretty sure
we're on.
He's not going to fail us today.
Oh, usually we get to talk over the opening music, but I didn't even hear it.
You never hear it. There's no music here.
Hi guys, what's happening?
All right, well, we're live again, man. It's another Monday.
Yeah, it's almost May. So yeah, springtime, summertime, right around the corner.
I got a new dock, and I'm ready to roll.
Dock. When he told me that, I thought he said dog, and I thought, nah,
no dock. We're gonna go fishing, man. Right on. So first thing we do every week, give away some stuff.
Always.
Right on, man.
Preferred reefers.
All right. So be careful with this message, or listen carefully because they're going to learn something new today. All right. So William Peace from Moorville, Pennsylvania. He's got $46. Shopping cart. Oh, sweet. So it's Pro Reef Salt and Tropic Marin. Tropic Marin 80-gallon Pro Reef Salt.
A small bucket.
Yep. And Mr. Chili Static Clean.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So, $46 going back to your account.
Buy that salt and get that static clean.
Do we charge $3 for that thing? You should get that.
There's a lot of time it's promotional. So actually, I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. All right. And then we got another one. Salt, theme of the day, I guess. Lucas Ledrocat from Duluth, Georgia. I thought it was going to be Minnesota.
Nah, I know, I thought so.
And HW Marine Mix Salt, 160 gallons. Two of them, $139.98. Going back to your account. Bravo, man. You can go buy something else. Maybe some more salt.
Maybe more salt.
All right.
Year supply.
All right. Sweet.
HW. Okay.
And Ben Tran from Caddy, Texas has got 39 pounds of Reef Saver Shelf Aquarium Live Rock.
The good stuff.
$272. You're not gonna believe this, man, but I was just spending an hour talking to both Joe and Mark, literally up at 60 seconds ago.
Oh yeah, about rocks.
Yeah, just about rocks.
Nice.
Yeah, so, and our finance director. And I can't really tell you what it is. The whole month, I think. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
I think something big is coming for
happened.
the whole month of May.
Well, so a couple of reasons.
Never. In all of the 12 years of bulk reef supply, we've never done this idea yet.
Preferred reefers. Get your account switched to preferred reefer right now. On top of that, the first Saturday of every month, we have 10 times rewards points for Community Appreciation Day. 10 times rewards points on most stuff out there. So that would be this Saturday.
What if it wasn't only Saturday?
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. We'll see what happens, man. We got a bunch of ideas, and it's literally only 2 days away, May. So, I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
But I came on into this morning and said, you know what, guys, we got to do something fun.
May.
So we'll see what happens, and maybe they fail me. And they do nothing, and then egg in my face next Monday. But I'm heavy pressure. Let's do some fun stuff.
Hey, a couple weeks from now, or in a couple weeks, or the next week or so, isn't Terrence coming to town?
I heard that. Yeah,
he says he is right here.
Is he really? Oh, there he is.
So maybe he'll get a live, because we botched our live Skype call with him, but maybe we'll get him sit in the studio.
He's not from Minnesota.
I'm not a Minnesotan.
He's been here 3 years. When you gotta turn around. Cool. But ahead of time, what we're talking about.
You can read, you can see sort of what we're talking about or what we try to focus on some of these. Jump to.
You have to wait an hour.
Yeah,
4 topics. Is it all from Ask Beers TV or?
No, there's sort of. I guess.
No, we'll pick them out.
I don't know. Okay, well.
So there's 4 of them here.
We'll start on the right and work our way to the left.
So I don't know if this was actually a question, this first one here.
No, I was going to end on that one, but we'll start on that one.
With it. Well, hey, we're going to go through all 4.
At some point in time, we're going to talk about each one of these. They might not be in order, but I'll link to when we do start talking about them. Basically, we kind of want an update of, we were looking at an update of Brett Duncan's tank. He's the $20,000 Dream Tank giveaway winner.
Yeah.
And as you can see right here, it is set up and running and cycling, and there's fish in it.
All right, next one.
The next topic we'll talk about today is summer's almost here, and how do we cool our tanks? Pretty good topic.
All right, next one.
We are talking about mixing old salt water with new salt water in mixing containers, probably for those people who are storing it and probably have a little left and don't want to use the whole bit of it and just want to mix new stuff in.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I'm going to give a little tidbit into some of the salt stuff that we learned, too, in the last week, because there's an evolution coming, guys.
And then one more topic that we'll link to
last one
later on, and that is, we got it up here. Summer vacation. So, of course, everybody's leaving. Going on vacation, spending multiple weeks, multiple days away from their tank. And Brighton here has a very specific case around his tank. But we can give some, general information that we learned from taking vacations. So,
all right, let's start with the easy one, man, because I like easy. The heat one. So let's read the whole question real quick.
Summertime.
So we're gonna link to these again. If you want to watch any one of these, well, there'll be a link in the description, and you can hit the timestamp and watch the exact question.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so summer's almost here. Can you guys share how you cool your tanks?
Like Christopher just posted this this weekend.
What's his name down there? Devin
Rich
stole mine, man.
Reef
Air
Dudes.
conditioner.
Yeah, Reef
Oh,
Dudes.
really?
Yeah.
Reef Dudes. Stole my first one, air conditioner. Right?
Keep your house a steady temperature.
Yeah, like it doesn't matter what it is like outside. In the same way in the winter, man, like I don't add extra heat to my tank because my house is heated. So first thing definitely is just maintain the temperature of your house.
And it works. Where
Upper
my
90s.
window, I could keep open throughout the day. It cools down a little bit at night, so I might let my my home fluctuate temperature. But when I did have the tank.
If your tank is getting too hot because you leave your windows open, close your windows, turn the air on. Or we can start talking about the next solutions. But the easiest one is just maintain the temperature in your house to whatever you want. But I agree 100%. In the summer, I want to open up the windows. I want some fresh air. I've been cooped up in the house all winter, and it's time for some fresh air. So definitely air conditioner first. Next?
So a fan.
Fan.
It's probably one of the biggest ones. That's why I grabbed this fan here. But you can cabinet doors open, have that fan clipped on there, blowing over the surface of the water in the sump, or over the top of the tank if you have it. Over the lights to keep if you have lights that produce heat, throw a fan on them, blow that heat away. But this is the fan. This is the favorite around the office for sure.
For sure.
The Toonsy AquaStream or Airstream.
So just for those who don't know, because not everybody knows the science behind all these things, what's actually happening when you blow the air in it is you're causing evaporation. And evaporation is the release of energy, which is essentially the release of heat. So the more evaporation you can cause, or the sump, or wherever, and it is going to cause additional evaporation, which will help release heat and energy from the tank. So the more air you have, the more heat and energy you're going to release from the tank. The reason that this thing is popular is not because it's the cheapest, and it's not because it's the most air.
Blows a nice stream across the top.
Blows a nice stream,
yep,
right across the tank. And it is like $60 though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not cheap.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
Not your cheapest option.
Yeah, and just for those of you who don't know,
Toonsy.
hopefully Roger or Toonsy don't kill me for saying this. What this actually is a laptop cooler.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah, so it's got a little USB guy in the back, and you set your laptop on it. And I don't know if this matters as much these days. Laptops don't heat up the same way they used to.
Right.
But it's a laptop cooler. You put your laptop on top of it, blows air underneath it, and keeps it cool. Except for they put this cool little bracket on it for aquarium. Or cooler or whatever, find one of these things for half the price, but it won't have the cool little bracket on it, and you'll have to jerry rig something, which is unsafe. So you probably wouldn't get $60 on a fan, but a lot of people also don't want an Air King giant fan on their tank blowing it because it's ugly. And this is a display tank. It's meant to look pretty in your house. You know, it's essentially a piece of living art in your home, and it isn't when we put jank all over it. So I don't know.
That's the language I speak. We've got some on the site. I think from Ice Cap. They're 4-inch box fan or square box computer fans, and actually we installed some on the floating canopy of the ones. Usually, like in the summertime, this little studio can get pretty warm. Especially on the weekend with nobody in here, with doors not being open. So for some reason, this room doesn't get cooled as much as like the main office. Plus the warehouse is right here, so the heat kind of penetrates through that door. But we've been known to bring in this industrial-sized fan in here over the weekend and point it at just the general tank area, and then blow all that stuff around too. So, but opening cabinet doors even does a big thing. Even instead of, if you don't have a fan, like open a cabinet or open your cabinet doors under your sump if you have them, and open the hood up.
A hood to some degree will trap heat as well. So, we do sell little computer fans, but honestly, if you have like something like a micro center or something in your area, because it's spread around most cities now. But if you have a computer store in your area, you can pick up a computer fan for really,
Yeah.
really cheap and a little DC plug for
Yeah.
it, and it's the same thing.
Works. What about so because there's more evaporation, that means I have to top off my ATO more often, or yeah.
Yep.
So inherently, which is also brings you to the next another way to cool, like on the cheap, on the dirty cheap, fill up a jug with RODI water, freeze it, and put it in the
You
sump.
stole that from DIY Joey, I think.
Did I?
No, he had heat it. He had to heat it when you put calcium chloride in it.
Oh, and then throw it in there. It's like
No,
cheap heater.
Yeah, you could definitely put ice cubes in there if you had like an emergency situation.
Yeah.
In a bag or whatever.
Yeah, you start getting those alerts if you're monitoring it, or even if you're not monitoring it, you see your little 83, 84 tick marks go up.
Yep.
Like throw something in there to cool it down.
Better yet, just turn your lights off.
But you could throw a frozen jug, in the ATO reservoir or something frozen in there.
Catastrophic problem.
And then it's not like constantly bringing down the temperature. It's only it's putting in cold auto top off water intermittently. So maybe that's a way to mitigate.
I'd say that's like a catastrophic failure. Like
Yeah.
my air conditioner's gone out. It's 110 years. First, man, turn off your lights, even if it's for days.
Yeah.
While you fix your air conditioner, because there's storms in the ocean all the time. Sometimes, man, the rainy season in some of these places, man, they may not see light for a week, or like real intense light anyway, maybe more, So like, don't be worried about having no light or whatnot. And you can turn off all kinds of stuff, like your tank isn't gonna go awry if the skimmer's not on for a few days
Yeah.
or whatnot. So
Was this something that we were talking heater or a return pump or a power head or something? Like get a tank with a known temperature and then add a couple things in. So maybe if I have to shut off one power head but keep a single power head going, if it's that big of a difference, I don't know.
I'd say the power head's actually per measurement of inefficiency, right? So like the more heat that it puts off, the more wattage efficient it is. Only a 20 watt
20
heater,
watts, yeah.
right?
Right.
So I would say the biggest things tend to be return pumps, specifically like the cheap AC pumps.
Yeah.
Not all AC pumps, just the cheapest ones. I
A
know.
skimmer with the same type of pump, a AC pump.
Well, if it was
Fairly large.
it was a large one.
Yeah.
So I know way back in the day I tested this, even before Beers TV Investigates, actually, in my basement we did mag drive pumps, right?
Oh yeah.
And they added a lot.
I
of
remember.
heat.
I had one.
Yeah, and so there was a lot of heat that came off that guy, and so being submersed, all of it's coming off into the water around.
Good for pond applications outside. It really doesn't matter for the most part. I think a lot of people were using them.
Well, to be fair, I was doing it in a 5-gallon bucket, so like a heat in a 5-gallon bucket is different than a 100-gallon tank.
Well, I had 8 of the MaxiJet 1200s that I was cleaning for the salt mixing tests in a single 5-gallon bucket. All of them turned on and running to clean them up, and I walked back and tested the tank temperature, and it was like almost coffee temperature, like really warm.
Yeah, so that's the stuff. Is there any other questions real quick before we move on to the next one?
There's one from Danny.
All right. Temperature-wise,
How warm can the tank get before it becomes alarming to fish and coral? Or, I guess, I don't know.
so the ocean, I think, is like up to like 83 degrees or something.
83 is like the common, I think a common cutoff for anything above, and you should really start taking measures to cool it down.
Yeah, the closer you get to that number, man, the further you want to be from it.
Yeah.
I would say that consistency is the big thing. So, like, in the ocean, if you've been diving, snorkeling, man, you'll see, like, you can feel the cold currents kind of coming in and going, and warm air currents coming and going. It's all of a sudden, what happens if that stops, and all of a sudden, instead of 83 and 78 and 83 and 78, it's kind of coming around, all of a sudden, boom, it's all 84.
Yeah.
Like, things just start going awry quick. So, like a 1 degree change in some areas, man, everything kind of goes. So I would say in most cases I've seen not a lot of catastrophic events to all the way up to like 81. And then every degree past that, the chances go up really fast, right?
Yeah.
So like exponentially fast. So and it also depends on how long you're there. So somebody might say, "Oh, I have my tank at 83, no problem." Like, is it 83 for the peak 2 hours a day, or is it 83 for the whole thing?
Yeah.
You know, because that's a very different conversation.
Yeah.
You know, so, and you may be just lucky, and you may have actually adapted these corals to that as well. But if your corals are always at 78, going to 83, probably not going to be good. And once one thing dies, man, it has a chain effect, man. It's just like all of a sudden they all give up at once.
Yeah.
You know, so.
I mean, so for me, if I didn't have an apex or something that could send me like an alert or that my tank was getting high, come the summer months when I know it's going to start being warm in here, I'd probably go to the pet store and get one of those stick-on color indicator things, and maybe have a little digital one that is sticking to the side of my aquarium, just so I can always look at my tank and glance at it and make sure that it's not hot. Because if my hands aren't in it, then I don't know.
Hey, by the way, we just totally went over chillers.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
Hey, there's a way to cool your tank. Like a chiller.
To be honest, it's because I never use one.
Yeah.
Ever. I'd avoid chillers at all costs. I'd take equipment off before I run a chiller myself. It's just another piece of equipment that fails. It tends to fluctuate the temperature pretty drastically. It's loud. It consumes a ton of energy.
Yeah.
It needs a backup because it will fail, and you've designed your system around the fact that it needs it.
Yeah.
It takes up a ton of space, and you can't put it underneath your sump, or you shouldn't anyway, because it works to exchange heat, and you're just going to heat up your sump area, and it's going to make it really hard for it to exchange heat. So it actually should be out of your sump where it's ugly. So the answer is you can definitely use a chiller. It's better in an area that is out in the open where it can exchange heat properly and not just heat up the room. And man, they're often loud, expensive, and I don't know.
Yeah, somebody was posted on a different thread in Facebook when I was looking at this one. Somebody had also said was looking at stainless steel like wort chillers, for beer brewing. Like, could you put like a stainless steel metal coil that you run cold water through, like into the sump, and run cold tap water through?
Well, so I think that would make the most sense if you did it with one of them ground sinks, what do they call it, like geothermal,
geothermals,
cooling or whatnot, because you're just running a pump at that point. But if you have a cool area in your house that stays cool, you could probably put some kind of thermal exchange in your house and do that.
And some people run some plumbing outside, I guess, if it's cooler or under the ground.
That way too, man. Really,
same thing.
Solar kind of. I don't know. Yeah, that's definitely a unique. Those the more advanced and finicky you get, the more likely it's going to fail, though. So
true.
just be aware. I'm trying to think. Anything else related to heat before we move on?
Somebody called us out for not recommending a chiller, but we just did.
Oh, there we go. We got two more questions before we move on.
The top one we already answered, and the bottom one is about calcium reactors.
All right. Can a reefer use shells on the beach inside a calcium reactor? Of course, no. So a shell is a different thing than calcium carbonate. It might be I'm not going to be sure.
Speculate,
I think it's different than calcium carbonate. And due to its nature, it probably will have higher phosphate in it. I'm just wagering here. I personally would not be the one that would do that because the media is like $4 a pound.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Like, media is media made for this purpose is pretty cheap as it is, and it's not like you're replacing it every week. You're replacing it probably every 4-6 months, maybe longer, depending on your demand. So like $4 to $8 every 4, 6, or 8 months. That's
you know what, Scratch? I wish I wouldn't do it, but like I understand the question is why, because it's just, all these kinds of things are fun. Yeah, you go out to the beach, collect this stuff, bring it home. I mean, serve it to your tank.
To the point of like to James's point here, like two little fishies every so often, like has a piece of shell in there. Like that. I mean, it's not completely shells; it's coral skeleton.
So somebody actually told me, I asked, where do you think they get that stuff from? Those little, reef bones or whatever.
Yeah.
And somebody told me the other day that it was potentially from sifting sand. So
Oh, okay.
they go to sand companies and they sift out all the little bits. So technically speaking, you might be able to go to the beach and pick all those little bits up if you wanted to, and not the shells probably, but the actual little coral bones.
Yeah, it takes 8 kilos to fill the Vertex calcium reactor, which is 2 packages.
Well, that's $20, man. I think I should buy it. That'd be a lot of sifting, but I don't know. Maybe it's a fun project.
Cool.
All right. Well, so let's go to the next question here.
Next topic: new and old saltwater. Let's talk about that.
Let's see the new.
Here we go.
Here it is. Does anyone mix old salt water with new salt water in mixing containers? So you think this means that they have some leftover?
So I read a little further in the comments, and some people were saying, yeah, if I'm lazy and I don't use all of it, I don't even know if using all of it means you're lazy, but I say you're ready to mix up a whole new batch of 60 gallons, and you've only used 40 or 50 gallons of your last batch. You got 10 gallons left in there. What do you do with it? Like, if I don't want to do a manual change, if I'm running on auto water change system where I can't even access the water at the bottom anyway, or do I pull it out and clean it and then remix? Or do I just add new salt water on top of it and mix it in there? For me, I would imagine we do this all the time, but we go through that 250 gallon bin at least once a week. So, and come Monday, there's probably anywhere from 50 to 80 gallons left in there that isn't used, and then it gets filled up with RODI water and then remixed with salt water. So at the dilution level, I wouldn't even see that older salt water would have anything to do with it.
I would absolutely top it off.
Yeah.
Top it off and bring it up. I can't imagine they're actually talking about actual old salt water from the tank mixing it in there, because
No, I think it's specifically.
You got plenty of old tank water in here already. Why mix it up? So it must be that you are trying to mix it in the bin. I would absolutely do that. The only thing about that is you're gonna miss a chance to clean the bin, I guess. And dumping more can kind of stir everything up. If you do it right, I think what we're gonna find out here is that you might not get all that stuff in your bin.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I don't think there's any more questions about this specifically. So if you got any questions about salt, man, shoot them on over. But
we've been talking about salt for a while now.
Yeah, let's preview what's to come.
Investigate. So the heated and circulated test is over, and that's coming out Friday.
Yeah.
The results of heated and circulated at 2 weeks of storage, constantly heated, constantly circulated at 78 degrees, and I'll spill the beans. Nothing happened.
Yep.
In the first test, we saw a decrease in alkalinity and calcium on those elevated types of salts. We saw other elevated salts that should have followed, we would assume would have followed suit and had precipitate in the bottom of the tanks, but didn't drop in alkalinity and calcium. There was probably all but 3 of the 8 salts had some form or several or even thick amounts of precipitate on the bottom, and then some had none. But now we're wondering if it was heated. Is it because it was heated and circulated that this didn't happen, or with another investigative test was it we didn't mix long enough to begin with? Because shortly after the first storage test, I did the test for how long does it take to mix your salt water?
We all thought, everybody in the universe thought
it was an hour.
An hour, whatever. Some people probably out there said, I don't know, 5 minutes.
I used to mix.
One quick spoon.
Yeah, exactly. In 5-gallon buckets, I'd take a spoon, I'd mix it, and then I'd come back 10 minutes later and I'd mix it, and I'd call it good and use it in my tank.
I got to tell you that I've done it 50-50 either way. I've had, power heads in there mixing it pretty much perpetually. And I've also mixed it up to salinity and then thought it was good, let it go. And now you're starting to see some real reasons as to why some of the other things I saw with both of those methods actually were happening.
Yeah, with the salinity specifically, I think the sodium chloride portion of the salt mix probably, from what I'm guessing, mixes the quickest.
Maybe
is more soluble. So when you test the water after an hour, every time I tested my salt water after mixing, even for an hour or less than an hour or whatever, it would hit 35 parts per thousand on point. It was on point.
That's a good point.
But from our testing of how long it takes to mix salt water, we see that clarity and color wise, upwards of 10 hours, 24.
The shortest was 7.
Yeah, like Tropic Marin Pro, which mixes up clear, almost like RODI water, clear with nothing left over. Still we didn't call it until 7 or 8 hours. Like,
many of them were over 24 hours.
And a lot of them were still cloudy after 24. Yeah.
So when I say cloudy, if you're looking into your bin and looking down at it, you say, oh, that looks clear, because it's a garbage bin and it's dark in your basement or garage or wherever.
Yeah.
When we're talking, clear, we're talking about a well-lit glass box with a reference next to it and color eye chart, behind it, so we can measure when the salt, is visually actually dissolved, right?
Yeah. It was a big difference.
Yeah, very, very big difference than like looking in your bin. And big difference in terms of what you thought would happen. None of them were anywhere near dissolved in an hour,
Yeah.
And so when we did that first test on, if you're, how long
can you, unheated and uncirculated, how long can you store mixed salt water?
Yeah, we only mixed it for an hour. And so we thought it was all dissolved. We mixed it for an hour and then we let it go. And then what you saw was various salts. Some of them had tons and tons of precipitate on the bottom. Some of them were, totally clear. And, we kind of chalked that up to like calcium carbonate precipitate on the bottom.
Yeah.
And, because, that's what it certainly appeared to be. But now we're thinking it just wasn't dissolved enough and all that stuff settled out. We're going to get to the bottom of that question. But, like, when we did the heated and mixed for 2 weeks and then pulled the plugs,
so
no precipitate.
There's there's no precipitate or anything during the 2 weeks of heating and circulating. In the exact same, I have the exact same salt bins that we've been from day one testing. So a lot of them are there's no change in the salt mix that I have. Same types of salts. So 2 weeks heated and circulated constantly, no precipitate. I just took the results. This is week 2, so on Thursday this week we'll get the results of 2 weeks after shutting off the heater and the shutting off the power head, if there's any precipitate. And I just looked at them this morning. There's still nothing in there.
Yeah.
But the levels were holding too.
So the cool part about this is, everybody's in hunt of the best salt or whatnot, right? So maybe that exists, maybe it doesn't. I will definitely tell you that between serving up ground up pheasant from the local pet store, Meow Mix, and Blue Buffalo, I have a hierarchy of which food I think is better. I'll keep them alive, but to different degrees. And so in my mind, the salts are probably the same way, but beyond that, we'll never probably get fully to the end of that conversation, but we can get to is how to properly mix and store salts to be used properly regardless of which one you use, right? And so one of the things I guarantee we're going to find out is that it is not okay to, I shouldn't say not okay, but you should mix it fully, right? So mixing it for an hour is not going to produce the best results.
And you wonder so you see pictures and posts of people who have thick amounts of precipitate on the bottom of their mixing barrels, and you wonder how long did you mix it for? Because I imagine if you mix for 24 or 48 hours straight and then shut it off or let it store it, you probably won't see that same
You're probably
thing.
not going to see that at all, or very little. Grant, we're only doing a 20-gallon container, so if you're using the container and you put 4 buckets of salt through it, it's going to accumulate the brown debris and stuff that we see in some of them we've pulled out in the sediment filters, and some of them definitely have more of that than others. You're going to see that accumulate in there, but the white crust, I think you're going to be able to avoid all of that stuff entirely just by properly mixing it. And
well, that's the next. So basically we're redoing the first test. In that we will now. So now I just started that test today. It's redoing the unheated, uncirculated water storage test. Only this time mixing for 48 hours and then cutting off the pumps.
I'm pretty certain that even in cold water, you're going to see none of that stuff. It was just mostly about mixing it.
Yeah.
And so the nature, part of the story is also, well, what if I don't want to mix it all the time? Well, there are some salts that don't require you to mix it very much.
Yeah.
And there's some that probably require 2 days of mixing before use. and I probably, you can decide which one of those you want to use.
True.
But I got a couple of quick questions. Let's answer them.
All right, let's see. How long can you hold on salt water with just a power head, no heater? Probably indefinitely. From
It's certainly seeming to look
seems
like
that way.
that. Like I think that all the thought process that it was going to like precipitate out over the years, and like you can't hold it that long. That also is dependent on the type of salt that you use. If you use salt that has a bunch of organics and stuff in it, that isn't going to go as well. But a lot of the like more labby type salts, the synthetics and pharmaceutical stuff, it's just salt water. It's going to stay, probably a really long time. Especially it looks like so far mixed. So after all these experiments are over, it's probably hard to follow all this jargon about the different things.
You do one to wrap them up.
We're gonna do one, man, that like really talks about all the stuff and gets down to what we literally learn from all of these things and how you can apply that to find a salt mix that works for your own uses.
For sure.
What's the next one?
Given the test you guys ran, would you say it's best to wait for the salt to fully dissolve before adding it to the tank? I mean, waiting about 24 hours.
I can't imagine a scenario.
I think going forward, after seeing what I've seen so far, that if I plan to do a water change and I'm not running an auto water change system, I'm gonna start my salt the day before, like Friday morning or something before I go to work. I'm gonna kick on my pumps. I'm gonna kick in my salt. And that goes back to that same thing I was talking about. Like, I think after an hour of mixing or 2 hours of mixing, I can go test the tank salinity and know that I'm on point, and then let it finish 24 hours, and it'll still be the same salinity.
I agree.
Because I did it this morning. Like, I got the tanks to mix up clear, and what I'll do. And now that I've talked about this, I'll go back. But they've been mixing for about like 4 or 5 hours now, and I can go test the salinity, and I know that they're not completely fully homogeneous, but I bet the salinity is going to stay the same now.
Yeah, so what I guess I'll say, man, is you can obviously not mix it for 10 minutes and then use it, because lots of people have done that, and like not gonna have catastrophic results or everything, like the fish jump out and corals all die, but like that really isn't the threshold of success either. Like, I'm pretty certain I can get like my meow mix that was only mixed for a minute instead of the hours or whatever, and the cat probably stays alive. Man, it doesn't mean it was good for it. So I mean, it's salt water. We're creating synthetic seawater to be able to house very sensitive species of animals in here, and dissolve the thing all the way before you use it is the right answer. There's the cheap and easy answer. I guess it's not even cheap. There's the easy, fast answer, and then there's the right answer. And the right answer is dissolve it all the way before you use it.
Which, leads me back to, like, if I'm going to do a water change on Saturday, I'm going to start my water on Friday. I'm just going to let it run for a day. No big deal. It doesn't hurt anything.
The thought of using it inside of an hour now seems absurd.
Probably.
And like, again, I had done it 100 times and not killed everything, but like I have a higher standard than that. Once I know, I can't unknow what I'm doing. So
true.
What else we got in here?
If my salt level is low, would you say it would be okay to hook my ATO to my saltwater bin? If my salt level is low. So, I don't know, ATO to your salt. Oh, I see what you're saying. So if your salinity in your tank is low, is it okay to put your ATO pump in your saltwater mixing bin so it tops off with salt water rather than fresh water?
That's probably not a bad idea. Salinity. That's probably like the best idea.
Because it does it like over a longer period of time. It's raising the salinity.
Actually, there's been a couple of tanks in the last week that were low in salinity, and my solution wasn't exactly that. Actually, you know what? They actually recommended that, or asked to do that. But what I told them to do is just go around and dump a gallon of salt water in every day, and it will come up on its own.
It'll naturally evaporate the gallon of water out, and salt will continue.
Salt will stay in. So, like, that's just kind of an automated way of doing that. Instead of just adding a gallon every day, you're doing it, with your auto top off. The only problem with that is like monitoring it and making sure that you remember to switch it back.
True.
I'll tell you, for every 10 things I think that I'm going to go back and switch, 10 of them I forget. Unless I get a ring or a rubber band on my finger, which I'll probably pull off and still forget.
Yeah.
There's so many things, and that's like That's like the hard, fast rule of the float valve for your RO tank. Everybody thinks, oh, I'll just go back and turn it off.
I'll
when it's
remember
full.
it.
Yeah, I'll remember. And then like I go out with my buddies for beer and I come back to 80 gallons of water on my floor.
Yeah.
So
we've all been guilty. I've been guilty many times.
No good. All right. So what's the next one?
There's fully. Let's go to Funky G, who says, "Do you fully seal your container when mixing? If not, how long can you leave a mixed batch open to the air?" So for the testing purposes, I do loosely seal them. So like a Brute trash can lid, it doesn't seal airtight, but it seals enough to like keep back a lot of evaporation, so you're not fluctuating your salinity like crazy over like 2 weeks. Might be some loss, but less when it's covered. In the testing tanks, I have cellophane over the top of it. Doesn't always get around all the edges, sort of just loosely on there, kind of to replicate, like a Brute trash can. But I think in any one of those cases, you wouldn't expect to see a whole lot of salinity change. If you left it wide open and you have a pretty wide open top, then you probably would change salinity, which also changes alkalinity and calcium.
Bad idea.
Yeah. And then if you're diluting with just fresh water, I mean, you're starting to change alkalinity, calcium, salinity is something different.
Yeah, so you're going to dilute. Say I had a 20-gallon trash can or whatnot, and then I lost 2 gallons in a day because I left it open or over the week or whatnot. That means that everything went up 10%. 10%, got more concentrated. 10% may not sound like a lot to you, but that's the difference between like 420 and 460 calcium.
Yeah.
Right? And so that sounds like a lot to a lot of people. So, if it's more than that, it starts to get astronomically, impactful or exponentially impactful. So, keep a lid on it, and it's probably good. You just need to prevent evaporation. This is the big thing.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. Now let's move on to the next question.
For sure.
Maybe we'll come back to these other guys in a minute.
Summer vacation.
All right, what is this question about?
So, Brighton asks, okay, everyone, he's leaving for long periods of time, not able to have someone stop by. He lives in the country, so he doesn't have internet in the house, so no cameras. Would you recommend, say, a week time? What would we recommend for a week time frame for things like auto top off and food, water change and filter changes and everything else? So basically, what I pulled from this question is, okay, so if you're not an Apex owner or an aquarium controller owner who has this monitoring, or somebody who has cameras, or somebody who can stop by the tank, what precautions can you take so you feel like you can go on vacation?
Man, it's been a long time since I've taken a vacation where there wasn't like an Apex or a Randy taking care of it. We'll run the office here, man. There's enough people to take care of these tanks, right? And at home, I've always had a monitor, so I'd know, if something went wrong.
Well, one for me definitely is like a larger auto ATO container, and 2 is some sort of automatic feeder.
So definitely gonna have to get an automatic feeder, feed the fish, right?
Yeah.
And it's not just feeding the fish. If you've got a lot of corals, you're also making sure there's proper nitrogen and phosphorus in there for them. And then, man,
salinity is a big one. So the
auto top off. I'd get a gigantic.
Just get a Brute trash can in and fill it up with RO water.
Yeah, I mean there's a risk that you could flood or something, but what else I'd probably do. I mean, and this depends on the auto top off you have. If you have an auto top off that you trust, emphatically.
With redundancy systems and all that, yeah.
I might set the auto top off on a timer to turn on and off once a day.
To reset itself?
Just in case there's like a timer reset in there. Yeah. Now you're trading safety for your home with safety for your tank at that point. So I would look around and say, if this whole bin of water flooded my house, what would it do to my house? If it's on cement floors, probably nothing. What would happen if the tank evaporated? Probably bad things.
That in mind too. If you don't already have the redundancy in place, in between your auto top off line and your reservoir, you can put one of those mechanical flow lock things somewhere on the floor or somewhere where there might collect water. My biggest concern with pulling a trash can in, if you don't test it before you leave, a lot of times those trash cans are taller than your sump. So once that pump kicks on, a siphon starts happening. So if you're not there to watch it, like I wouldn't drag a trash can in, drop my ATO, leave my ATO reservoir fill line in the sump where it is, and walk away, because most likely that curve in the water line is going to start a siphon. So I usually put like my ATO line in the display on the top. When you're gone, who cares about what it looks like? But you will definitely stop any type of siphon if it's up on top of your aquarium.
Yeah, so the other element of it would be, obviously, you go up by an Apex or whatever, and the thing will, tell you about all the problems. You can solve them for you.
Yeah.
Trigger, a different thing. You can turn it on, restart it from there, whatever. This is what I would probably do if I was on a somewhat of a budget. If I was like on a $200, I mean, if I got $500, I'll go buy an Apex. End of story.
Right.
So if I got $200 and I'm going on a vacation, this is just part of protecting the animals that I care for.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably buy a Senai. So the Senai I would plug into like a computer, and if I had to, I'd just bring the computer to the tank, right? Mm-hmm. And so in that case, it will monitor temperature, it will monitor the water level, it will monitor the pH of the tank, and ammonia. And it will tell me, the big things will be the water level though. And even if the water level went down, the temperature would stop most likely because the return pump would get jacked if there was not enough water going through it.
Yeah.
So in any case, I'd be able to know that there is a problem, and I got to call my buddy Jerry or whoever it is, probably my buddy Randy here. Please help me, save my tank. And he'll have to put his fishing pole down and come help me. But in that case, it probably is about $200. If I got less, how much is a camera? Like a digital camera, like you can get at a store, like for your computer.
Fairly, relatively cheap. I think
$50?
I've had some, like $50-$40 on Amazon or in the computer store or something like that. Which, for anybody, like, you can log into this thing. Yep. So I had one when I was deployed to Africa. I had one that I could actually pan left and right. This thing was only like $60. I could optical zoom in, I could zoom out, I could pan up and down, left and right and stuff.
And I could check $50.
It was like $50-$60. Yeah,
really?
It was like a D-Link camera. It was return. Yeah, it was
so
relatively.
That's
cheap.
what I would do. I would go get one of them sticky thermometer things. I put it on the front.
Yeah.
Right. I'd aim a camera at it.
Right at
Everything looks like it's alive. I open up my phone. I'm about to go to the beach. I look at it. The tank's fine. I go to the beach. Right. I mean, you're not gonna get real time monitoring if things go bad, but the tank generally can last a little while before things go wrong. So I come back from the beach. I check it again.
Somebody, I think I just might have caught a glimpse of it, but another thing here too, instead of going to buy something like that, like if you have an old iPad or an old cell phone laying around, you can, and it's in your house, you can FaceTime, point it at the thing.
Can you break it though to be all the time?
FaceTime it, so can you have it answer the phone?
I don't think you can make it answer, but also all these things can't go into sleep, man. It's got to be 24 hours a day, or you got to be able to turn it on and off.
True.
So I can't put my laptop there and close it, but it won't work anymore.
Yeah,
right?
True.
Well, anyway, so I'd find a camera solution. It would be the cheapest option, so that I don't have to have somebody over there. Or you can find your buddy to give him some barbecue and a case of beer to stay in your house and call you upon emergency.
Yeah,
that might be the cheapest.
Actually,
you know what?
I'll go take care of you if I gotta stay in
and
your
beer
house.
And whatever damage my buddy does in my house costs more than the Senai. Buy a Senai.
Cool.
Obviously, man, we here use Apexes on almost everything,
and
I just don't want to get stuck on that as being the only answer is $500 because that's not realistic for everybody. But in the end, man, if you look around your coral in your tank and you say, you know what, those 3 corals were $500. Do the math, man. Let's start protecting this stuff because it's gonna get. If you start looking around all over the place, it was $500, or this coral is this big. Well, now it's a colony that you could break up into 40 of those things. It's worth protecting at that point, So,
well, so that's food. That's food, and that's auto top off. Those are probably the biggest concerns when you're leaving: is feeding the fish and keeping the tank topped off in the right salinity over time while you're gone.
I'd probably turn off a lot of unnecessary
Do you need a skimmer?
Equipment.
Yeah, skimmer is just the cup's gonna fill up unless I had one of those Varios skimmer, Reef Octopus skimmer, like the Varios pump. It's got the built-in float switch that'll just shut itself off. I'll do that. or if I've done the Apex, float valve or float, optical float or any one of those types of things, they do have, even if you don't have one of those or an Apex, there's that, I think it's Auto Aqua or what have you, the little optical sensor that clips onto the side of the cup, and then it runs on a smart outlet, and you can plug the actual skimmer in there. You can use any skimmer, and that gives you some sort of like, hey, my skimmer cup's full, and now it's just shut my skimmer off instead of constantly running it.
I think you can make a solid argument as to why you should turn your skimmer off.
Or just shut it off.
Yeah, and it depends on how dependent your system is on that skimmer. If it's a super, super critical component of your overall filtration, or if it's just something you kind of take out a little bit every, how much attention you put to it. Mm-hmm. So, alternatively, I would set it to be way low, like super, super, super dry foam if I was going to go out of town. So
yeah.
I'd set it up so that, like a lot of times when you set it up dry too, it actually doesn't collect anything in the actual cup. But when I go into the body, I can just scoop out, which is very clearly crap.
Doing its job still. It's just not going into the cup.
It's collecting scum on the inside of the neck instead of in the cup.
Yeah.
So I might just set it up to work like that instead of trying to collect in the cup, which could overflow and do all kinds of nasty stuff. And also, like if it just like decides to go crazy and then floods all that nutrient back into the tank that it took out, I think that rapid rise in nutrients is actually worse than the slow rise of not removing it at all. So,
fair enough. Good point.
Obviously, had somebody check on it. All right, man. Well, we got about 10 minutes here. We can ask some more questions.
One more thing to talk about. It's not here anymore.
Oh, we lost it.
So we had the picture of Brent, the 20K giveaway guy. Brett Duncan, he won. We'll get it back up here. So I was just cruising through the AskBRS TV page, and his post from a while ago came up, and this is his current profile picture on his Facebook page, which is the Reefer 750 XXL with the Radeon 15s. So I went over to, he's got a build thread on Reef to Reef. And if you
bring
just
that up for again,
if you type in 20, like the $ 20K, and search on Reef to Reef, the forum, his thread will pop up. It's like good times with the 20K giveaway, Dream Tank giveaway tank or something. He's on 14 pages of the build thread. He has had some, I guess he didn't quarantine or didn't have the opportunity to quarantine some fish that he put in there. There's been a couple of fish losses, but right now he's working on a quarantine system setup, from what I've read, and looking to replace the fish. But it looks like he's at the point of putting in tester corals, and he still has the WWC $500 in corals things to get too. I'm pretty sure. $5,000 in corals from WWC. So
yeah, I was going to actually mention that. I think it's super cool that he doesn't have corals in it yet.
Yeah.
That he's taking it slow, and that he didn't just put $5,000 in corals in there and kill him.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's still cycling like that, I think it's pretty neat. I'm sure the WWC guys are helping him along with advice on how to make sure that he cycles it properly. But hey, that's really cool, man. We were all a little worried when we were going to give away a $20,000 tank whether or not somebody's actually going to build a tank out of it. So the fact that Brett did it, drastically increases the chances that next year we'll give another $20,000 tank away. So that.
Thanks, Brent. Thanks for everybody. Thanks to everybody, Brent. Or Brent, and everybody thanks you, I bet. For that. But
man, that was super. That was one of the more fun lives that I think we ever did.
Almost broke the internet.
Yeah, I don't know, man. And I want to thank everybody that was involved in that. That was super fun.
It was really fun.
I can't wait to see the corals in it.
Yeah, so Brent, we want an update. We need some more pictures. Send them on the Facebook page or something.
All right, we got a few more questions and we'll call it a day. So let's answer these guys. Let's rattle them off.
Okay, start from the top. Hey, BRS, what are the corals behind you? Love them. Justin.
I don't know.
There's a lot of leathers. A purple leather, green leather. Those are the big giant ones over here. There's a torch coral here in the top. Looks like some kind of frog spawn down here that's purple. We got some hydnophoras in here. There's a nice SPS colony of highlighter back here. That's what this whole green area, you can't really see here, but it's actually growing in really well. Big old bubble coral right in the middle.
Big old Ghani down there.
Yeah, the big Ghani is probably my favorite down here.
I haven't paid attention to that
in
a while, man.
I know. I'll have Adam. I'll see if Adam can post some to our social. But The Goniopora is, or Goniopora, wherever you are, it's like the polyp extension has got to be like 3 inches on some of those, 2.5, 3 inches on some of those. So, and then a mix of other little corals in there. It's pretty cool.
So, I mean, you see corals like this, and I gotta say that in general, tanks like this are often viewed as the most impressive because you got big old euphyllias and whatnot, flowing around, the Gani's flowing around. It adds a sense of movement to a tank, unless you're like a natural-born stickhead.
Yeah.
So
that's where the fish are the movement, and the sticks are just pretty in there.
I would say rare and hard drive the motivation. So, SPS were considered hard, and now they're getting less hard as the knowledge, evolves. Mm-hmm. Now Euphilia is getting more rare, and so like Euphilia tanks are suddenly like, more popular.
They're pretty
not more popular, but becoming more popular.
Something about a moving coral that's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
I'd take this tank all day.
Absolutely.
Instead of a stick tank.
Especially the softies, man. Like you can go up to a tank that has like maybe $100 worth of softies in it that a year from now is just filled and just super, super cool. So like to get an SPS tank to be filled and super cool,
thousands.
I mean, you're just took your wallet and just shaking it out every day. So, with the softies and stuff, it's a lot easier. And even the euphyllias and stuff, they grow faster than you think.
Oh, so,
for
sure.
Right on.
Rick Gasson, can you cool your aquarium with a fan on the sump rather than on the display tank? Yeah, absolutely. Depending on how big your sump is, like for the 160, the sump is probably like a 4-footer. But it's sectioned off, so there's chambers and stuff in there, so you're probably limiting the amount of water or the air that can flow over one certain surface area. The majority of the surface area is over the 6-foot tank, though. It's wide open top. You're getting air movement on that's probably...
The water's also turning over usually from the power heads, so you're exposing more surface. So, yeah, definitely better on the tank itself, but if you can't do that or don't want to because it's ugly, the sump, especially if you can vent the sump area itself after you create the evaporation, you can get it out of there.
Yeah. Oh, Adam mentions on Facebook, for those watching, that the Gani that we were talking about is on our Instagram page. He took a recent pic of it a while ago.
Oh,
so check it out.
Right on.
Jake asks a few questions. He's got 3 of them up here on the board. Would you mix a whole new batch of saltwater in your mixing station if you only need another gallon or 2 for your display tank?
Would you mix a whole new batch if you only need a gallon or 2? I don't know, why not? Yeah, because you can store it for a long time.
Yeah.
So as long as I mix it up right and I'm using a salt that allows me to store it. Some of them don't store as good as others, but like most of them are storing pretty good as long as you do it right. So, yeah, why not? I mean, I don't want to mix up 2 gallons every time.
Well, and plus, like, mixing up 5 gallons, if it's smaller water volume, so maybe this process happens faster with more flow than what we found in a 20-gallon tank. But still, like, we're finding that I still don't want to mix salt water more than less than maybe 5, 6, 7 hours, depending on my salt.
All right. What would be a good for an auto top off or auto feeding corals?
Food for auto feeding corals.
So reef chili works really good in like the AFS feeders and the telefeeds.
Same form of function.
Yep. I'd say that you got to be careful a little bit with some of the tubes and types of tubes that you use in like liquid foods, because they tend to I don't know what they're doing, but they're definitely deteriorating some of the plastic.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So I try to use like RO tubing is probably better than like that soft type of tubing. Like I don't know if it's amino acids or whatnot, but they clad them up and I don't know.
Well, a lot of that stuff either needs to be mixed prior to use. That's what they say. So you have to come up with some way to mix it, and it needs to be refrigerated in some cases. So finding one that doesn't have to be shaken or refrigerated to put on an auto doser. Now there are, I forget who I was talking to at one of the trade shows. I think it was Orlando. One of the reefers, he was just like, "Hey man, I got those magnet mixing things, and I tell my Apex to turn on 10 minutes before my dosing pump turns on to dose these amino acids and stuff." I was like, that's pretty geeky, but awesome.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I think RT used to have them in the fridge, to do that, and so he, plumbed it all into the fridge to be able to dose out of the fridge. So, be careful where you drill.
Speaking of auto feeders, a lot of people had commented because they saw pictures of it, but On the 750 XXL and here on the BRS 160, our auto feeders are hanging upside down like bats, and people are interested in does that work? Does that change anything? Does it still work? It makes a full 360-degree rotation, so whether it's mounted up or down or on the rim, I like it now because I don't have to have it on the rim of the tank.
Yep.
It's hanging on the
Well,
hood.
the rim, if you have like a screen net top, sucks. Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it works. A little goofy. It doesn't work the exact same way, but it works.
Well, yeah. Well, if you're doing like powder foods, like reef chili, and and you have it this far high above, and you're trying to dose it, the slightest breeze will blow your reef chili all over the place.
Yeah, maybe that's true. Yeah.
But it's cool. It works.
All right. What else is there?
Andre, do you recommend weaning your tank off of Zeovit zeolites if you want to go to the Triton method, or just stop using the zeolites cold turkey when switching to the Triton method?
Slow as you could possibly do, man. I would just do the Triton method. Because the Zeovit doesn't have a calcium alkalinity solution in the U.S.
Right.
In Europe they do, but in the U.S. they don't offer a calcium alkalinity, so I just use that here. I'd probably get the fuge going, turn the fuge on, get the fuge working in conjunction, and then slowly wean the zeolite stuff out of the mix. But this is what I'll tell you: expect challenges. Like anytime you drastically change any element of the tank, you are going to run into a period where, if you don't, bravo to you. But most people are going to run into an issue where, things don't look as good as they should. Just ride it out, do all the things you can, keep it as stable as possible, and in 6 months it'll look like it was brand new.
Yeah.
But anytime you drastically change the whole filtration and the way that the tank utilizes and, exits nutrients and stuff, don't expect the tank to thank you for it.
Asking for an instability. Yeah.
All right, man. All right, well, what's up for here? We got 2 more. Let's just shoot real quick.
Okay. Jake asks, how far would you travel to save a tank? 100 miles or across the country?
How far would you travel to save a tank?
He'd call me.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah.
Or Josh.
Myself, man, it depends on the investment, man. If I got years into this thing, man, I'll get on a plane, dude. It's like $300, to go save my tank.
Say you had the WWC 900-gallon system in your house, and that was your system. And would you trust anybody to do anything? But fly overseas.
Yeah, but in all honesty, man, my wife might be super excited about this, but if I was down in Florida and I looked at my camera and the camera said tank's going to crap, and I don't have anybody that everybody hates me and nobody wants to help me out, and I have no friends, then I go to the airport, buy a $300 ticket to get home, go fix the thing, and then come back a few hours later, man. Tell my wife to go get some dinner, because it ain't that big a deal, man. And I got so much time and money and investment in the tank. I travel pretty far, man, to save my own tank. And then if I was going to save somebody else's tank, it depends on how much I like that person.
I mean,
I don't know.
Well, what you don't know if you're saving somebody else's tank is how much they spent on that scolia or those corals. What I know is that the $300 ticket to fly back home is about the price of one of the scolies that I had in there, if not multiples of corals.
That's
times
true.
10.
It's true. All right, what else?
Last one. How much flow are you using in your test mix tanks? That's a good question, Dave.
Oh.
I'm using a Maxajet 1200 in both. So when we did I've used Maxajet 1200 for all of the tests, other than the mix for
with the prop on it, you should say.
Yeah, I'm sorry. With
attachment.
it's not the you can hook hoses to it and shove water type utility pump, but it is like the power head configuration with the prop and the guard. The only time I didn't use so there's a single one in each one of those tanks, which really does 20-gallon cube tank. I forget the dimensions of it. 18 by 18 or something. It does circulate the water pretty well, but when we did the how long does it take to mix my saltwater test, where we did the 24-hour time lapse, it was 2 of those because we found that there was dead spots. If we just dumped the salt and then walked away, there was this big crust of salt that you had to either manually mix up to because it crusted over. In which case we put a power head this way and a power head this way, so it created this vortex inside the tank in a little box. where that didn't happen. So there was that much flow in there.
That's
But-
a really good point, man. That you had a 20-gallon tank they were trying to make salt in. We needed 2 pumps to do it properly.
Yeah.
And it still took a minimum of 7 hours, right? So, like, put that into thought. For me, what I like to do is generally in a square box like that, it's harder to not create dead spots.
Yeah.
In a round container, less so. So, if you can, in a round container, if you can just get the water spinning, you're probably good. So aiming a power head of some type in a direction and get the water spinning, and you're probably good.
A gyre is great for that.
Gyre would be
You
super
can
awesome.
Put them straight up and down, vertically. Point the each power or each of the flanges on there, each of the sides.
Probably get an ice cap one in that case because
Yeah.
ice cap ones are way cheaper.
Yeah, for sure.
For that purpose. I think one of the Toonses that has the nozzle on it. So if you look at a Toons power head, the longer the little snout is on it or exit point, the more focused the flow is. And in this case, you want to get some velocity going. So on the power heads that don't have any focused flow, it won't work as well for this. And also the Toons, you can obviously point in a direction and get it to work.
True.
All right, well, we'll wrap it up today, man. Hey, by the way, I saw this really cool video today of Jake Adams snorkeling. So, he's snorkeling somewhere. It was the neatest video, and it was really cool to see somebody who really knows a lot about biology. I don't know, man. I haven't watched a whole one of his videos in a long time, and I watched all 15 minutes of it today, dude.
Cool.
So, I just thought it was really, really cool. And if anybody's interested, go to Reef Builders and watch their channel, man. It was neat.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
Awesome.
Brent. All right.
Well, that's it.
See you next week.
All right, take care.
Or in a few days.